There is a lot of advice out there on making sure that your business is efficient and systematized and, a good business. And I definitely talk about that a lot myself as well. But as with most things in life, it is not absolute. There is a fine line here where, especially if you're newer in your business, but frankly, at any stage of business, trying to be too efficient can actually hurt your business. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to break down 4 really common areas that I see where new and actual really successful already entrepreneurs kind of get in over their heads and hold themselves back with their business growth by trying to be too efficient. With that, let's jump right into it. The first, and I would say possibly most common reason where entrepreneurs get into their heads and try to be too efficient and that actually backfires and hurts their business is when they get in their head about not being efficient enough, or that what they're doing is not scalable or systematizable enough. And then they stop doing it when it's the exact thing they should be doing in their business. So here's the thing. You've probably heard that saying, what you do to get you here is not what you'll have to do to get you to there. Here being, what you did to get you here, where you want to go to get to a certain point is not necessarily what you'll need to do to get to the next point. That idea. And that is especially true at each phase in your business. What you're going to do to get your first client, to get to your first 5 figures, to get to your first 6, to get to your multiple 6, to get to 7, to get to multiple 7, and so on, is going to be absolutely different. Now, some of those things are going to be scalable. Some of those things are not. And when you are newer in business, frankly, most of the things that you are doing initially should not be scalable. A really common example is if you are having to talk to every single prospect initially and have a lot of calls that don't end in sales, and you're having to create a lot of content, maybe do some outreach, pitch yourself a lot to get your business going. What I see happen is people get in their heads about, oh my gosh, how am I going to sustain this to grow my business? If it's this much work to get to this first goal that I have, how the heck am I going to do X times more than this to get to X times my revenue goal? And that just sabotages the heck out of people. So instead, how you want to think about this is at each level, in a lot of ways, at least until, mid-7 figures, especially for an online coaching or course business, what you have to do is going to get easier and easier because you'll build on a team, especially with this type of business. The things that you do are going to be a lot more scalable. And it's not going to be that you have to add on a lot more things or team members to be able to scale your business through that range. And so, each step that you're doing, even if it doesn't feel scalable, even if it feels not efficient, really be using that to get learnings so that you can make your business more efficient down the road. So for example, the example I just gave, which happens to a lot of people where they're thinking, okay, I'm not going to do this sales strategy, or I'm not going to do this thing that's been working for me because it's just not scalable or efficient enough. And that's not what a business should be. I did that myself. When I got my first client online, and this was back when I was doing advertising consulting, I did that by finding a woman who was asking a question about consulting for or advertising for her small business. And I reached out to her and said, hey, I do this. I have so much experience in this. I'm just new to consulting, but I'd be happy to answer your questions for free in return for some market research calls or questions. And she said, okay, great. We did the call, we exchanged the things that we promised, and then she asked me follow-up questions for 2 weeks. And I wasn't trying to be efficient. I just thought, amazing, someone actually cares about what I know. And so I answered her emails for 2 weeks. Then one day out of the blue, she emailed me and said, you've given me so much value for free. How can I hire you? And I actually had to say to her, that's amazing. Please give me a little bit of time, like a week, so that I can research what price and packaging is fair, because I really don't know. And after that, though, I was like, oh my gosh, it took me all this work just to get one client. I can't do this. And I tried to get really scaled too fast. Scaled, quote unquote, in that it didn't work. I tried. And I was like, okay, I'm going to work on my funnels. I'm going to just write emails. I'm going to work on my website. I'm not going to have to do this with anyone else. And guess what? no sales for a good amount of time until I realized, Luisa, calm down. Don't try and run before you can walk. Get a few more clients first, understand how to speak to your audience, and get some testimonials, connect with people, really get to know those things that you learn best from doing these unscalable things. And then after you do that and you've built a better foundation, it will naturally come a time when it makes sense that you have that knowledge, you have that foundation to be able to start systematizing it. And that phase is a little bit different for everyone, but you'll know essentially when it's right and when it's time to start scaling. So that's thing number one. The second area where I see this happening is what I kind of hinted at earlier, where it's about automating too fast. So again, the beauty, especially of an online business, especially an online coaching and or course business, is that you can automate a lot of things. I mean, that's why so many people say, hey, selling courses is like the holy grail of passive income. Yes, there are a lot of aspects of that are true. To sell something like that requires a lot less active and moving pieces than the majority of businesses out there. However, there comes a time to automate those things, and in the beginning is not it, because you have to understand what goes into the automation. It's not just like one day it's not automated and the next it is. To be able to automate something, and this differs a little bit for each industry, but the overall principle applies. You have to have your marketing skills solid for how you market that product. You have to have your sales skills, and your sales systems for how you sell it through. Do you sell it through a sales team? Do you sell it through your sales emails and pages? Do you sell it through a video series, a webinar series, a combination of all of these different touch points? How do you speak to your audience depending on what traffic source they come from? All of these things you have to really understand, and most people initially just don't have that information because they haven't made enough sales to have gathered that experience and that information yet. Not to mention your copywriting skills, your confidence, your reputation, your testimonials, all of those things have to fit in together so that you can do this. Again, there will come a time when you have made a lot of sales, you realize, okay, I've got all my assets down, I've got so many testimonials, I'm ready to automate this. But if you're wondering if you're ready, chances are you are most likely not. And the thing I have for you in that case is that you will get to a point where you're able to automate a lot more. That's just a natural growth part of running a business, but don't try and run before you can walk, right? Get that consistent income coming in for you first, whether it's 5K, 10K, 20K a month in your business, so that you can pay your bills. You're not stressed about getting revenue and getting clients every month. And then you can take all of that foundation and then do the next thing in your business. So that's thing number two. Area number three that I see people trying to get too efficient, because there's a lot of advice out there, right? If you're running a business, you should have a team, you should have people helping you so that you only do your zone of genius. Yes, absolutely. However, there's a time and a place for everything. Outsourcing too fast is one of the fastest ways to end up being surprised why there's no money left in your bank account, having people who are costing you way too much money without really contributing to your business. I think this happens a lot first because, maybe it's out of fear. We hire for the things that we don't want to do or don't think we can do, or there's just a lot of bad advice out there. And so unfortunately people hear it, or it could be maybe a little bit of ego. If we're being honest, like, hey, I want to be a cool business owner and I want to have a team, or some combination of all of those. No judgment on any of that. Whatever that is, here's what I have to say to you, especially for, again, an online coaching and or course business, and really in general. Chances are you don't need to outsource as quickly as you think. And this goes counter to a lot of advice out there. But the reason is because, especially for this type of business, that there aren't that many things that you have to do. And all the things that you have to do in the beginning, ideally, you should have some control of, unless you just have a lot of funding in your business for some reason and you are just thinking, okay, I'm just going to put money at it and I don't need it to be profitable super soon. And I just have one really, really powerful skill set that I'm just going to double down and own. That's not the case for most of us. I know it definitely wasn't for me when I started. And so, right, I learned marketing, I learned basic copywriting, I learned how to do sales calls, and I learned how to navigate social media, how to write emails. I mean, those are the basic skills, honestly, that you have to master for this kind of business. And that's it. It's still a good amount of skills, but relative to a whole bunch of other businesses where you don't have to worry about physical pieces, a bigger team, delivery, creation, inventory, products, things like that, it's a lot more manageable. That way, when you do this in the future, first of all, you are in control of your outsourcing. So you never end up in a place where you have to outsource in order to make sales and keep your business going. And you're not at a point where you're outsourcing so fast, but not bringing money in that you run your business to the ground. Also, this will prevent you from ever having to hire from a place of fear, which is one of the worst things you can do. I can't tell you how many people I've heard horror stories about where they were really scared they couldn't do a certain thing, so they went out and hired a team to do it, maybe to run ads for them or to set up a funnel for them. And unfortunately, that team just didn't understand their business enough, or they weren't able to deliver on what they promised, and this person was out a lot of money, no results, and no skills or growth or learning to show for it. And so once you have a basic management, a hold of grasp of the skills that you need to outsource, you can also hire smarter and better and a little bit more slowly so you can do your due diligence and make sure you're hiring the right person at the right time. Finally, this way, you get to keep more profit as well, because one of the benefits of this type of business is it's relatively very high profit, especially relatively to other businesses, right? And so if you want to leave your 9-to-5 faster, if you want to get to a certain revenue goal faster, well, you can do that by doing a little bit more work yourself, also making your business leaner. It'll also help you figure out the best things in your business that work best, because no one's gonna know that better than you. No one's gonna care to figure that out better than you. And then that way, again, once you outsource, you can hire the best person. You already have processes and benchmarks that you can share with them so that they are off to a running start versus having to figure out from scratch on their own, which sets nobody up for success. And you get the best of all the benefits of this type of business, plus then the benefits of smart outsourcing when you're ready. The final tip or area that I see is more of like a mindset versus one specific thing, although there are specific instances that we can talk about. And that is having a mindset of just looking for shortcuts, right? So one of the most, there's a fine line here. Let me just put it that way. You should always be looking for the smartest, most efficient way to do something. That being said, there is a difference between just being smart with how you learn and do things versus looking for a shortcut. Let me tell you, there is no such thing as a shortcut. It always comes to bite you in some way or other. So just another example, when I shared earlier that, I've seen a lot of people hire out of fear because they wanted to do a certain thing. They were afraid they couldn't do it themselves. And so they were just hoping someone would do it for them, like set up their funnel for them. Unfortunately, right, that's essentially the mentality of looking for a shortcut. I'm scared I won't be able to do this. I want someone to help me so I can just start making money. And here we go. When you have that mentality, what that does is it makes you make dumb decisions like that one. Now, I'm not saying there's not a time and a place to invest or bring on skills that you don't have. But for the majority of people who are wanting to build or are growing a coaching and or course business, that does not apply. There are exceptions, but if you're watching this video, chances are 99.999% you are not one of those, right? So remember that and think about, okay, am I looking for a shortcut or am I looking really for the smartest way to do it? And one of the best benchmarks to use to identify this, because sometimes we can get in our heads and it's not immediately clear to us, is to feel into what's driving the decision. Is it fear? Fear that I won't be able to do this, fear that I won't be able to hit my revenue goals, fear that if I don't do this or hire this person, then I'm going to fail? Or is it from a place of confidence? Hey, I already know how to do this. I think this person can help me do it better, or this thing can help me do it better. And okay, let's do it. I know the metrics that I'm going to measure against to make sure that we are actually positive ROI and doing the things that I'm hoping this investment or this thing or this strategy or this tactic will do. And I'm ready to go from here and make it a smart choice that works out well for me. Big difference in those two, right? It's the thinking of, oh my gosh, what if I fail? I have to do this. Versus, hey, I know how to do this. Let me see if I can do it better, faster, more efficiently, more effectively. Big difference. And so if you notice somewhere in there that that's your mentality, the negative fear-based, this is the time to call it out and shift it. Nothing wrong with that. We have all been there, right? And I've seen some of the best people that I've worked with and friends and colleagues kind of fall prey to that mentality. It's human. We give into fear from time to time, especially if we're doing something new and big that we've never done before or no one around us has ever done before. The key is not to fall into judgment or anything. It's to pull back, identify what's going on, and then shift so that you set yourself up for success. Now, with that, I have two other things to help you with that. The first is a great PDF on the blueprint to use to break free from your 9-to-5 and build an online coaching business that replaces your income before you turn in your notice. Risk mitigation, 1,000%. I'll put that link in the description below so that you can go ahead and get that PDF if you want it. And if you want to see what's possible and kind of get a little bit more behind the scenes of the fine line between being efficient and fast, but not so efficient, it kind of comes to bite you, I've got another great video for you on the behind the scenes and the story of how I built my first online business to 6 figures in 4 months before I left my 9-to-5. So I'm going to put that video somewhere on the screen for you so you can check it out, and I will see you there.